Coming to you live from the Veil. It's the Movie Change Up podcast, bringing you the Hand Plus podcast. I screwed that up a little bit there. I recovered nicely. Uh, we handle your streaming. Whatever streaming services out there, whether it's Hulu, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, all your other favorite streaming services, we're here to talk about them. HBO Max, Apple TV. If there's a big drop, if there's something new dropping, we're here, we watch it, and then we tell you, hey, we think you should check this out, or maybe, steer clear of it, don't waste your time. There's a lot of streaming services out there, there's a lot of content to watch, and we're here to kind of break it down, tell you what you should watch, what you should avoid. Tristan, I think we kind of talked a little bit about this, but I ask you the same question every week. How was your streaming this week? I feel like you got a lot
It
done
was
around the
definitely
house if you needed time to get stuff done around the house.
yeah, it was a good week for chore doing, I think, Not a lot going on in the streaming platform world this week. I think there's a lot of real world stuff going on between like the Queen's funeral and the Emmys. I felt like maybe the whole entertainment eye was elsewhere for the week this week, but we still had some pretty big hits, so it'll be fun to discuss. And yeah, hopefully a shorter episode because we've been going long a little bit. So this will be a good, quick talk through, I think.
All right, definitely. So, to talk Hulu a little bit, there wasn't really many drops. Nothing we thought really was worth watching, worth checking out. However, Amanda Seyfried did win Best Actress for The Dropout, and kind of one of the things we want to talk about is Hulu like a critically relevant platform. What's like Handmaid's Tale? I think is like if you were to ask someone name a Hulu original show, I think that's what they're gonna go to. But like, what's the last time anyone's cared about that show? When's the last time people have talked about The Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah, at one point Hulu was like racking up the awards. Handmaid's Tale was like the Emmy favorite, and Elizabeth was winning every year and all that kind of thing, and Dowd was winning every year, and it was like guaranteed to win. And they got one win this whole year out of, and they had a good amount of nominations, but nothing that had any real like winning shot potential. And I think it's great for Amanda Seyfried. She's one of my favorite actresses right now, and I think it's cool that she's finally getting like this big critical claim in her award here. I hope she can make some even bigger career movies with this. And The Dropout was really good, so I'm happy for The Dropout. But yeah, especially now that Disney Plus has taken off and really become like the primary focus of Disney, I kind of wonder if Hulu is kind of just being left to the side a little bit. They have their hits and their things that pop up here and there, but it doesn't seem to be like one of the Mount Rushmores of platforms anymore.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. I remember back in the day you had all those commercials with Alec Baldwin and like monsters and aliens and the whole thing, just trying to make Hulu seem exciting. And at this point, I'm kind of surprised Hulu or Disney just doesn't take all the properties they want and all of the stuff that's on Hulu that they may want, plop that stuff on Disney Plus and just sell Hulu off to the highest bidder because I just don't. Now that there has a security code and so you can have parental controls on Disney Plus, why there is a need for Hulu when I think Disney owns a majority, if not near all of it. I just really don't see the need for its
Yeah,
existence, to be honest.
I could see there being a reality where they kind of hybrid. And I think Hulu's biggest kind of financial win right now is their live TV and their fact that you can pay like $45 a month, whatever it is, and you get essentially like all your normal TV channels. It's like having TV without the cable package. And I know my parents and a lot of my like older relatives have that. So I think Hulu does pretty well among like older people who are trying to cut the cord and they want to have a very familiar experience still. So I think that is kind of a demographic, and that feels very way different than Disney Plus's demographic. So I could see them figuring out a way to make both of these work. But if I was Disney, I'd probably have Hulu pretty much just be that, just be like, here's your TV provider stuff. You can get your channels and a couple originals here and there maybe, but not much. And then I would put pretty much all of the other stuff, especially the Fox stuff, onto Disney Plus.
Yeah. Because if I remember right, Hulu doesn't exist internationally. Outside of the US and maybe Canada, it's just called like Star, and it's just another bubble on Disney Plus. So all of your Hulu originals outside of the US are on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I know we don't talk about Apple TV that much on the show, but Ted Lasso won a lot of awards at the
Yeah.
Emmy, so I wanted to give some love to Ted Lasso. They won Best Comedy, Best Direction for a Comedy, Lead Actor in a Comedy, Supporting Actor in a Comedy. Believe it or not, that's less awards than they won last year, but it's still tons of awards. And they were the leader of all of getting the most nominations of any show. So I feel like Apple is suddenly breaking into being like a real competitor
Especially they won the
in
Oscar
the
last
at
year.
least in the critical. Yeah, in the critical space, like, they won the Oscar, they won a bunch of Emmys now, so it's like, they're kind of becoming the next Hulu, where it's like, maybe they're not as big as the biggest platforms, but they're getting the critical acclaim that's gonna start putting them on the map again.
Yeah, definitely. And they have shows that look interesting. I just haven't checked them out. I still need to see Ted Lasso. I'm definitely going to watch it before season 3 comes out. I paid for Apple TV, signed up for it to watch Ted Lasso, and I've had it for like 5 months now. Still haven't watched it, but I need to. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to watch it, and I'll probably do a review here, especially if we have another light week like this one. Anything else you wanted to mention about Hulu or even Apple TV before we move on to Amazon Prime?
That's all I got, Joe. I will say Ted Lasso feels like a show that was made specifically for Joe, so I feel like you're gonna have a very good time with that.
All right. So the first thing that I had for Amazon Prime, there's not much to review here. I mainly just wanted to let people know that Amazon has bought the rights for Thursday Night Football. So you can check out Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime or on Twitch because Amazon owns Twitch. So if you don't have Amazon Prime and you're still a football fan and you want to watch it for free, it's streaming live on Twitch. A decent broadcast. They have Kirk Herbstreit, known for broadcasting college football games on for ESPN. Uh, Jeff Bezos backed a Brinks truck up to his house and has him doing Thursday Night Football for the NFL. And then you also have Al Michaels, who is mostly known for doing Sunday Night Football for NBC. So a little bit of combination, best of both worlds. Broadcast wasn't the best. It'll definitely get better as the two legends in the broadcasting industry, build a better rapport with each other.
I think it's really exciting. I mean, I don't watch football, but I appreciate that it's a huge step for football to be on Amazon Prime. Like that's a huge change. And I know when I talk to my parents and people who are like older, and especially people who are into sports, like that is the biggest thing keeping them on cable. People are saying I can't switch over to only streaming because I want to be able to watch the Bears and I want to be able to watch this and all these other sports that aren't necessarily easy to stream. So I think as we get more and more deals like this, I think it's inevitable that that barrier is gone. Sports are eventually like on streaming platforms. It'll be cool to see like is NFL going to be all on Amazon and then the MLB is going to be on Apple TV and like are they going to split it up like that? That could be kind of interesting. It'll be cool to see where stuff
Yeah.
lands because MLB does have a deal with
Yeah,
Apple.
yeah, they have Friday Night Baseball. It's on Apple TV. Yeah, I think the NFL definitely likes to diversify. So I think so. NFL has a deal with DirecTV um, called Sunday Ticket, where basically you pay $150 and you can watch any NFL game that you want. I think except for maybe if it's in your network. I'm not sure how that worked. Well, this season right now, the NFL launched NFL Plus, which is essentially you can listen to basically any game that would get broadcast to your local television. You can get there, and I think also maybe the radio of all the other games. I'm not 100% sure how it works, or maybe you can watch broadcasts of finished games. I'm not 100% sure. So my theory is I think when this NFL Sunday Ticket deal ends at the end of this season, next year the NFL is going to announce that NFL Plus you can pay $100, $150, and you can watch any NFL game you want.
That'd be great. I think that's really exciting. And I mean, the accessibility of sports is cool. And as streaming becomes essentially the only platform, it's going to be interesting to see how that all ends. Because, yeah, it feels like cable is on its last leg here.
Mm-hmm.
Now that and you look at the Emmys, like almost every single winner was a streaming platform
Yeah.
show, or at least like a co-streaming with the channel show.
Yeah.
You know, like Abbott Elementary was on TV and it was also streaming at the same time,
Yeah.
and shows like that. I think it's a really cool turning point in streaming right now.
Yeah, especially I think it could definitely be the death nail in cable when if the NFL goes completely online along with local broadcasts and with basically your average random NFL game on a Sunday gets more viewership than game 7 of the NBA finals or game 7 of a World Series. So I think the other leagues are going to follow whatever the NFL does because clearly they know how to get viewers. But I think also to wrap up Amazon Prime, I know you're watching Lord of the Rings. I'm kind of done on that show. I just didn't care about it, and I felt like I was only watching it for this show, so I felt like my reviews were not going to be like positive or great. So obviously, if you're 4 or 5 episodes deep, you want to hear from the show of people who care about the show, who like the show, and I'm just not that guy. Tristan, you seem to be more into it. Me, you want to just give us quick thoughts on this recent episode? Are you in? Or are you
Yeah,
out?
I'm very, and it's interesting that we're both on like opposite directions of the show because for every episode I see, I just get like more and more into what's happening. I still don't necessarily care about Gladriel or some of the narrative of her story specifically, but I think just the visual of this episode is great, and they're really starting to focus in on their core characters, which is going to help a lot, I think, because the first couple episodes were very disorienting, where it was like introducing a bunch of people, especially last week. It was like here's like six new characters, figure out which one you're going to pay attention to, and now it's a bit more focused. I feel like we're coming into our own here on the show, and yeah, you get to see a lot more of the Dwarven mines, which is always really cool to see because in Lord of the Rings we saw them abandoned and destroyed after they'd all been killed, and now you get to see them kind of like at the peak where they're all functioning, and you hear all those tales in Lord of the Rings about all the great minds of the the dwarves and all these great tales, and then you get to see that actually like happening here, which is very cool. And yeah, I'm very much engaged by this. It's We'll talk about House of the Dragon later, and this feels like it's the foil to House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is like this very slow, political, character-focused story, and this is just kind of like an adventure story, and that's what I'm liking about it. But yeah, it's not nearly as compelling as House of the Dragon, but if you want to just chill out after a long day and get some really great visuals, and this is definitely the best episode yet so far. So I'm having a great time. Can't wait to see where it goes.
All right, awesome. Definitely going to keep not watching it. And that brings us to Netflix. I'll start with my show first, and I watched a little bit of Love is Blind After the Altar Season 2. Basically, if you haven't watched Love is Blind and you're a fan of trash reality television, check it out. Essentially, the premise of the show, I don't remember if I've talked about it on here or not, but you have these people, you have these men who are all in one side of this place. It's like this pre-built studio, and the women are on the other side, and the only crossover is like these pods, and the men and women talk through the pods and get to know each other. And this is over the course of the weeks. I think they meet on the weekends, or they have this happen in the weekends. The men have no idea what the women look like. The women have no idea what the men look like, and through their conversations, some of the couples start to fall in love and eventually propose to each other without knowing what the other person looks like. And essentially, the first time they see them, they're already engaged. And then once a number of them have been engaged, they move them to this villa. They live in this villa for a while, and a lot of them can break up here, but you get to actually see them, and then maybe see someone else you were talking to in the villa but didn't, or in the pods, but didn't necessarily propose to. And then once they're in the villa for about a week or so, because they set it up so they're all from the same city. So they filmed the first season in Atlanta, and I think season 2 it was Chicago, if I remember right. And which is funny because I live in Atlanta and Tristan currently lives in Chicago. But and then so after they live in the villa for a bit, they move them, and you live with your new fiance, and they kind of film them and their life, and you see their fights, obviously, because it's you're engaged, but you also met them for the first time a week ago, and a lot of fights. But anyway, so this is kind of the year later reunion show of that show, and you see a lot of the fights, and you see a lot of the problems. And my thing for this, after all of that, is if you watch season 2 of Love is Blind and you like those people and you want to see more of those people, definitely check out Love is Blind season 2 After the Altar. If you haven't watched Love is Blind, check it out. If you watch Love is Blind season 2 and you're like, I don't care about these people, then don't watch After the Altar, because nothing about it was like that interesting that you had to check it out. It was really just more of those same people, to be honest, and most of them were not great television.
There were a handful of entertaining people in that show, though.
Oh, you
They had
watched
some
it?
odd characters you could find in Love Is Blind.
Yeah.
I watched clips, I've seen episodes. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I mean, there were a lot of viral clips when that show was going on of some of the odd people that were showing up, and it could be fun to watch. That's one of those shows that I would like to get into. You're much more into reality than shows than I am, but there's always like a couple a year that stick out to me, and I end up watching. So I think that might be one that creeps in there someday.
All right, and one other thing I wanted to say is I'm continuing my watch of season 5 of Cobra Kai.
Cobra.
I'm a little bit halfway through the season, and it's great. I messaged Tristan about it because I'm not sure where he's at, but I know he's a fair bit behind me. Like I said, if you watch season one I think you can get by with only watching the first Karate Kid. I think season 2 beyond, you should definitely check out Karate Kid 2 and Karate Kid 3. And there was a moment in there. I don't want to spoil it for Tristan, but I think it was in episode 5, if I remember correctly. That was great low budget filmmaking. Like they didn't have much of a budget. They're dealing with the actors they're kind of dealing with, and they made a great story choice that perfectly helped them in their budget. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil it, but if you haven't checked out Cobra Kai, even you don't have to be a massive Karate Kid fan. I would say that you don't have to be a massive Karate Kid fan to watch it. It's not. It's definitely aimed at massive fans, and I think that's kind of the people they wanted to watch it. But I wasn't a big Karate Kid fan growing up. I've seen the movies a couple of times a piece, if that, and I'm really enjoying this show. It's a great show.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to catch up on it. I'm in season 2, and I have not yet watched the sequels, but I'm starting to feel like I'm getting to a point where I think I probably might pause and
Yeah.
then just go through the sequels and come back because I think it'll help a lot now that they're starting to bring in other characters. And I've seen trailers for the new season where I'm like, oh, that's a character that I know is from the Karate Kid movies, or they're teasing another character that I know is in the the next Karate Kid movie. So I'm like, I think I got to start catching up on this franchise.
And if I
That's my
remember,
goal for this week.
now, I remember I said last week that I think all the Karate Kid movies are streaming on Paramount Plus. So if you don't have Paramount Plus, just get the free trial, watch the movies, and then kind of skip the trial. And then also apparently they're working on a Karate Kid movie continuation reboot thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, is this like a Cobra Kai movie?" But the people behind Cobra Kai said, "We are no idea what this is. We're not involved with this at all." So I'm very curious what that's going to be. How are you connected to the Karate Kid universe when the people making the only thing keeping Karate Kid relevant have no idea that your project exists? My
Yeah, that's
prediction,
gonna become confusing pretty quick.
if I had to make a guess, because I feel like the actors who played Ralph Macchio and the actor that played Johnny Lawrence, William Zabka, would have to be involved if it's a continuation of like the original Karate Kid storyline, and I doubt they would do the movie knowing it conflicts with a Netflix show or isn't involved in the Netflix show. So my prediction is it is a Mr. Miyagi origin story, a young Mr. Miyagi movie.
I like that. I think that's what they got to do. They can't just do a sequel because the sequel's already happening and it's already successful. So it'd just be kind of weird to do a different sequel, you know?
Yeah.
So I think going back and doing a prequel or some kind of distant spinoff is what
Oh.
you got to do.
And also with movies like to follow trends and what's popular in it. You got Shang-Chi came out last year. Yeah, I think I saw a thing that it came out like a year ago, last week or something. Crazy Rich Asians coming out. If you have a lot of Asian focus in cinema, I think if you did a young Mr. Miyagi movie, would be if I'm the movie studio and I'm looking to make a Karate Kid movie, I think maybe that's the angle I go if I can't do a direct continuation. But that wraps up my talk on Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. I know you watched the movie Do Revenge. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this was Netflix's original movie of the week here, starring Maya Hawke from Stranger Things and Camila Mendez, who was in Riverdale and a couple of other like teen-oriented shows that I'm not as familiar with. But they play these two teenagers in a high school who become kind of rejects from their school because some video surfaced of them doing some kind of so-called devious things that kind of like send them out to outcast society. And the two of these students who are in different total life paths, but then come together because they both got like ostracized at the same time, and they decide to do revenge and get revenge on their bullies and the people who outcasted them. And it's a very like funny dark comedy. I liked it a lot actually, and a lot of Netflix originals, especially like high school teen movies, you don't know if it's going to be any good. You know, I've seen a lot that are really terrible, and I thought this was really impressive. It was very funny. There is some really just great dark humor, like the fact that these two like very kind of catty girls are in this revenge scheme, and I love a good revenge story. I love a good like totally different people coming together type of story where it's like they're in different social circles and then this weird event links them together and now they're on this like revenge plot. It reminds me a little bit of like Thoroughbreds with Anya Taylor-Joy and Olivia Cook. It came out a few years ago. It has that kind of feel to it. Uh, I also thought it was really cool that Sarah Michelle Gellar is in it. She has not been in a movie since I just checked IMDb while you were talking, and she hasn't been in anything since 2009.
Oh wow.
Of course, she's been in shows. She was in Star Wars and Masters of the Universe and that kind of stuff, animated shows, but she hasn't had a any appearance in a movie since 2009, and this is her first time being in one. Is that one of the, I think it's the mom of one of the characters. Yeah, that's what she was. She was the mom of one of the characters, and a pretty good role. I mean, it's not a major character, but it's cool to see her again, especially after so long. And it's kind of ironic that it came out the same day as Clerks 3, where she also has a cameo appearance. So, she went from not being in a movie in 2009 to being in two movies the same day.
Oh,
So
that's
that's kind of
awesome.
interesting.
That's awesome. Who would you like recommend this movie for? Do you think this movie aimed at high schoolers, college kids, adults, little kids?
I mean, I think high schoolers would definitely get a lot out of this because it's very relevant to like the current time. You know, it feels like it's because it's based on somewhat of the plot of Strangers on a Train by Hitchcock, and
Okay.
they really modernized it and like brought in new technology and new social kind of issues and gender and sexuality and all that kind of stuff that comes up. So I think people who are young, like Gen X's, are really going to connect to this because it's sort of speaking like
Gen
our
Z.
language and yeah, Gen Z, not Gen X.
Okay.
Gen Z is gonna connect to it. But yeah, I honestly thought it was very funny. There's a really, really good tiny role from Sophie Turner in this, which is like
Okay.
almost a cameo level appearance. She's in like a couple of scenes, but she's like hilariously good. And yeah, this is like it's a lot of fun. I recommend it a lot. I liked it way more than I thought that I would. The comedy works really, really well. So I think if you're looking for a fun movie to watch with like your friends, you know, curl up with your significant other, watch something that is pretty easy watch, has some laughs, some little pulls at your heartstrings, but overall it's really, really entertaining. And yeah, Maya Hawke is great. She's always entertaining and stuff. She's probably the star of Stranger Things to me, of in terms of like people I want to see more of from that cast. So yeah, she's really good in this. She's essentially playing like almost the same level of character. So if you like her
Mm.
in Stranger Things, you like her in here.
All right. Cool. One of the things we wanted to bring up as far as awards go, because that pretty much wraps up of the things we watched on Netflix. Squid Games wins big at the Emmys. They're already casting a reality show spin-off, so that should be awesome. It's like apparently people didn't watch the show because I don't know if you want to
Yeah, it's
compete
like you
with
missed
Squid
the
Games.
point, you know? They're like, "Yeah, let's make a show about a game where people compete
Yeah.
for a big prize and risk their lives
Yeah.
for online media fame, and then just make that real."
Now coming to Amazon Prime in 2024, The Hunger Games. Oh, it's not a movie or show. It's literal people competing to their deaths. Um, and also upcoming, we got Jazzman's Blues. Tristan, do you know what that's about?
That was this is Tyler Perry's newest movie. I put it on here because it's interesting when Tyler Perry once in a while subverts out and does drama. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it'll be interesting. I'll check this one out. It's supposed to have a really good like jazz infused soundtrack, so that could be kind of cool. And yeah, it's curious to see what Tyler Perry is gonna do once he, for the occasional times he breaks out of like what he's known for, you know. And the fact that it's dropping on Netflix, it could mean that it's terrible. It's just gonna get totally forgotten, and it's some like non-movie of the year,
Yeah.
but it could slip out there and be like a surprise hit, you know, a little hidden gem.
Also, we have The Real Bling Ring, which, if you remember, I think it was around 2009, 2010. A group of kids, high school kids, busted, broke into celebrities' homes while they were away doing projects on vacation, whatever. They weren't away at their LA homes, and they routinely stole their clothes, stole their jewelry, and just wore it out in public. I mean, they weren't really selling it; they just stole it because they wanted it and wore it because they wanted a piece of that celebrity lifestyle. And I believe Coppola. She made a movie about it starring Emma Watson back in the
Sophia
day.
Coppola.
Sophia Coppola, there we go. Made a movie about it back in the day, and now it's going to be a documentary following it. So it'll be
Yeah, I
interesting to
can't wait
see.
for this. I like the movie, so I'm curious to get this look at the real story because they did make some pretty significant changes, but there's also like moments in that movie that are right out of the real story, you know, like lines that the people actually said that they were integrated into the movie and like interviews they actually integrated to the movie and that kind of a thing. So I can't wait to see like the actual story of this and compare that to the movie that came out so many years ago. But yeah, it'll be a really interesting story and around a whole like celebrity worship culture. It seems like it's only gotten more and more
Oh yeah.
intense in the last couple of years, like with social media being so prominent now, and it's like everyone wants to know every single thing that a celebrity thinks or says or does or any little moment of their lives. And yeah, I think the story of the Bling Ring really embodies like idol worship in our culture and that kind of stuff, which yeah, definitely feels more relevant now than it even did back then.
All right, we're definitely going to check that out. Next up, moving over to Disney Plus. I usually kick it off with what I did, but I'll just continue that trend and I'll talk about the biggest waste of infrastructure, technology, manpower, money, whatever was the short quote unquote film Remembering, starring Brie Larson.
I didn't
Basically,
know you watched the Queen's funeral, Joe.
uh, oh, that, yeah, no, I didn't watch that. Um, but it was pitched as like this augmented reality thing. I saw commercials for it with things coming. The commercials were way better than the actual thing. Basically, Brie Larson's writing this story, and some sparkle thing twists around her pen, and then injects her into the world of imagination where she's near this little girl. And you had to, number one, it only works on Apple. It does not work for Android. Had to use my girlfriend's phone already as someone who's an Android user. Tristan, a fellow Android user, kind of knocked it down a peg for me. I'm like, all right, whatever. You only make it for half the population. If this was a thing on Apple TV, it wouldn't be a knock against it because I'd get it. I'd understand. It's Apple. You're marketing your own crap. But this is Disney Plus, and you're competing with Apple, so you should make things harder for an Apple, not easier for Apple. Anyways, so you hold it up and you had to like scan your TV and then scan like the wall and the floor and the area around your TV. I did all that. I'm like, cool, 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 got it. And then it said hit play. And then as you hit play, it says wait for the waterfall scene. So I'm like, and it gave a little picture of what you're waiting for. So I'm like 4 minutes into this thing, and the waterfall thing still hasn't happened yet.
Oh God.
Finally, it's 9 minutes long. Already, I'm halfway into it, and it's finally starting to do augmented reality. And basically, the waterfall flowed out of my TV and made this little lake, and there were like some trees and stuff around the lake. And that happened for a minute as the story went on. And then they're like, oh, okay, we gotta go to an even bigger world. And I'm like, oh, so like this is gonna be the thing where you're like, isn't this cool? And then you go into like a thing and it makes it way bigger and way better. And the thing just popped up. On my phone. Your augmented reality experience is over. Rewind to
Again.
like see the rest of it. And there's still like 4 minutes left. So if a 9 minute thing, I barely got any. It's basically a glorified Snapchat filter is what they gave me, and I just felt like it was a waste of time. I thought at first, oh, this would be something cool if you have little kids. Not even worth that. Don't understand what they were going for. I feel like they would have been better off just not doing it because I left disappointed, and I don't really know how anyone could leave it with anything other than disappointment.
Yeah, it sounds like a big letdown, you know? I understand maybe they're trying to like test the waters of this technology and see how well it works before maybe they do something cooler with it, but like maybe this is something you test at like Disney HQ. Like why is this doesn't seem like something you'd be publicly releasing if it's that level of like no effort to it. I just don't know why you would make it and why you
Yes,
release it.
it's 9 minutes. I thought the whole thing was going to be augmented reality with stuff basically like 3D, but on my phone and stuff coming at me and doing stuff the whole time and interacting with the floor. I mean, it's Disney, you have the budget for it. And then when it was 1 minute of 9 minutes, and it basically was 1 minute of like the whole thing was on like a 2 second loop the whole time. I was just like, this is nothing. I've had Snapchat filters more interesting than this, and not worth the effort. So definitely, I'm not even gonna say, oh, maybe check it out and you'll like it. You'll be underwhelmed with it too. No matter what, unless you're like some Amish person who's never experienced technology before, there's no way you leave this with anything other than why was this a thing. But with
I
that,
hope that they do something more interesting with it because that's a cool idea, like an augmented reality that show you can watch with your phone and it kind of like interacts with the world around you. Like I could see that being cool. And Disney has a lot of like really groundbreaking technology stuff at their
yeah,
parks. Like there's ideas there, but yeah, it doesn't seem like they're
yeah.
using it very well.
Like imagine if they just did that to one of like the classic animated movies, like Bambi, and it's just like Bambi, but now like in 3D and like stuff's coming, like it just unwraps your television and it's just like Bambi,
Hmm.
but like widescreen, if that makes sense. But with that, let's kick it off to what you watched with Dancing with the Stars live. I watched Dancing with the Stars back in the day. Haven't watched it in a number of seasons. Apparently, they did my boy Tom Bergeron dirty, and they fired him, and he had no idea. And they're just like, "Yeah, we're firing you, and you're letting you go." And he's like, "But I've been doing this show for 20 seasons." And they're like, "Yeah, we don't care." And so, what
Yeah,
was your thoughts?
pretty bold move.
What was your thoughts on Dancing with
Uh,
the Stars live?
yeah, we mentioned the live football on Amazon Prime, so I figured I'd check out the competition where Disney is premiering. I think it's their first live event on Disney Plus
They've
with
had
the.
they had something else I don't remember. It was like D23 or something like that was live.
Oh yeah, I think they've done a couple of D23 type of things, but yeah, this was the premiere of Dancing with the Stars, and I checked it out live. And what I was most impressed by, first off, is just like how high quality the stream is. You know, sometimes when you see a live stream, you think it's going to be like low res or dropping out and stuff like that. But this looks really really good. It's high quality 4K visuals. The colors all look great, and yeah, I think it's just very seamless. That's the most impressive part. It looks like you would be watching it on ABC, except instead of saying ABC, it says Disney Plus in the corner, you know? So I'm really impressed by how well they were able to essentially just take Dancing with the Stars and turn it into a streaming show. The stage is maybe more elaborate than it even was before. You know, the camera work is just as good. The judges are all the same. So I'm liking it a lot. It's literally on right now as we're talking.
Hmm.
So I've been watching and looking back as we're going. But yeah, it's really cool. I like that the fact that both of these platforms are now figuring out their live technology, and it's only a matter of time before we get more stuff like this.
I looked it up because I knew they had done something live before, but I couldn't remember what it was. They did the reveal of the last Oscar nominations live on Disney Plus.
Oh, that's right. They did. I remember that.
Yeah. All right, so
But yeah,
again,
this is not anything different from Dancing with the Stars. So if you've already seen Dancing with the Stars, you know what you're getting. You know it's
yeah,
not going to change your mind, but it's very available. The fact that it's on Disney Plus, maybe get people to watch it who haven't watched it before. But
yeah,
pretty solid lineup of stars here. Nobody where I'm like, oh wow, I can't wait to see them. That would have helped, I think, if they had a lot more appealing star power for the Dancing with the Stars. But
yeah.
yeah, it's an alright show so far.
Yeah, I feel like it's. I'm very curious to see what their strategy is. Is it to get more young people who have Disney Plus to watch Dancing with the Stars, or is the plan to get older people who watch Dancing with the Stars to get Disney Plus? I feel like it's the latter and not the former. But
Yeah, we'll see. I wonder how this will do. I'm curious
yeah,
to see in the next couple weeks or whatever when we get the numbers for this, if it did really well for them.
yeah. All right, and upcoming on Disney Plus on Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night or
I think
Wednesday
it is.
morning? It's
I
Wednesday
think it's
morning.
Wednesday morning. Yeah,
Wednesday
12 o'clock
morning.
Wednesday morning.
So I will be going to bed early Tuesday morning or Tuesday night because apparently the episodes are all about 30 minutes for Andor. I haven't even said what it was. It's Andor dropping Wednesday morning. First three episodes of 12 episode season. Reviews have come out. Apparently, the show's the best thing Star Wars has done, arguably, since the Disney era. I'm hyped about it. I'm excited for it. Yeah, the episodes look to be a little over 30 minutes apiece, so look to block out, if you're a big Star Wars fan, look to block out about an hour and a half of your day on, well, maybe 2 hours of your day on Wednesday to watch Andor, which is a prequel to the movie Rogue One, which is a prequel to Episode 4 A New Hope.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just watched Rogue One recently, and they put it back out in theaters for a little bit leading up to this show. And a great movie, really great action. I can't wait to see how they translate that aesthetic and over to the TV world. You know, and the trailers were really impressive for Andor, and all the reactions have made me just so excited. Even the negative reactions of people who are like saying they weren't super into it because it doesn't have as much Easter eggs as they
Yeah.
necessarily wanted to, or it's a little bit slower than they wanted it to be. And I'm like, those all sound like positives to me, you know? I don't mind Easter eggs, but it'll be nice to have a
Yeah.
break from the constant connections and the constant like having to piece together the puzzle of a larger universe. I can just sit here and watch a good show with good characters, not have to be putting together like this large scale
Yeah.
thing. That's gonna be I'm looking forward to that. And 3 episode premiere is a good move, I think.
Yeah, that's why I
It's like
like,
dropping a whole movie.
yeah, because like so many people get mad when like a creator of a project doesn't really care about that project, like, well, not the project but the universe that that project's in, like, oh, Tony Gilroy doesn't care about Star Wars. So like that's what I want. Like my least favorite moment in Rogue One, except for maybe the moments of writing that leave me scratching my head of why is this in this movie, is in the first scene, the like zoom in focus shot on the blue milk. I'm like, if episode 4 New Hope didn't come out, you would not shoot that way. You would not even pan in on the blue milk like that. That's more of just like a shoulder nudge, like, huh, we've seen episode 4 too. Like that's why I was excited when Tony Gilroy was named the showrunner, because I knew he doesn't really care about Star Wars. He just wants to make a good show. Like there's gonna be connections. We know from the characters there's going to be connections to Star Wars. I don't need Easter eggs. If this was going to be a show that wasn't that had no character or location we've ever seen before in Star Wars, I'd be like, okay, maybe throw a little Easter eggs in there to make it feel connected. But the fact that the lead person has been in a Star Wars project before, which ties directly into the first ever Star Wars project, means I really don't care if there's Easter eggs because we have a natural connection. Like
Yeah,
there's
the whole show is Easter egg.
yeah, basically the whole show is an Easter egg. Like Mon Mothma's in it, Saw Gerrera's in it. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been announced, but Bail Organa is going to be in it. Like the whole show is an Easter egg. But
Yeah,
that's
no,
basically.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how they expand the era of Star Wars too. It's the same time as Rebels, the same time as like Fallen Order, like the same general era of that. So if they're gonna connect anything, like there's plenty of room to connect if they want to. I think it's a little bit of a big assumption to be like, oh, there's no connections when, yeah, like you said, there's a bunch of characters that we already know are connections.
So my question for you is, before we end on Disney Plus and go to HBO Max, there's rumors that we have a casting for Hera in the Ahsoka show, and we know Rogue One and Rebels take place around the similar time frame. What do you think the chances of are we see the Hera casting basically announced in Andor?
I would really like that. I think, yeah, it's a way to have a little bit of connection for the people who want that connection stuff, but like it's not going to revolve around Hera, and I honestly feel like it would make perfect sense for Hera to be like among these rebels that he's hanging out with. So I think that would be fun, and it makes perfect sense for Hera to show up in the show because we know she's involved in her own way in this era of the story. So
And
I think it
especially
fits.
with the makeup, you can like de-age her with just the natural makeup you put on her face to make her look like a Twi'lek. And they could have, and because this is set 5 years before A New Hope, you can have this just um, set before Rebels, so you don't have to worry. Oh, where was she at this point in Rebels? It doesn't matter. Rebels, Rebels timeline hasn't hit yet. But with that,
Hmm.
we move to HBO Max. And before we get into kind of the what's going on now on HBO Max, I wanted to do kind of a little bit of a Hard Knocks. Where are they now? We followed Hard Knocks during the season, and part of Hard Knocks is the training camp of, well, Hard Knocks. So it's called Training Camp with the Detroit Lions, where you follow these bubble guys struggling, trying to make the team. And one of the best moments of the series, or like saddest, most emotional moments, is seeing guys get cut. And it's the end of the training camp. Got to go from 80 to 53 men roster. And it's a sad day because essentially 27 guys find out that they're going to be selling insurance tomorrow, not following their dream of playing in the NFL. And so one guy, Dan Skipper, who had an emotional cut, we saw a little bit of it, and I'm going to play. And I'll just preface this by saying you can't really screen record off HBO Max. They just black out the screen. So I found a screenshot from somebody else, and I just put his image there when he was sitting in the chair getting cut, and I played the audio under the image, and then followed it up. So, like I said, Dan Skipper, we lost Tristan, but it's fine. He's not needed for this moment. Like I said, he's had 6 seasons in the league. I think he's played in a total of 11 games in his NFL career. Never started a game. Bounced around various practice squads. And this last Sunday against the Washington Commanders, he started his first ever game for the Detroit Lions, starting at guard, a position he has not played since his freshman year of college. He's actually a offensive tackle, and so I'm gonna play the moment of him getting cut to kind of remind you who he is, and then follow up with that, showing the locker room after the Lions beat the Commanders.
You're tough as shit. You're smart, and fucking hate it, man.
Yep.
You're one of the guys that talk about it. It's like that's I wish we could.
Anything I can do.
Hey, Skip, nice freaking job.
So yeah, just a great, fun, emotional moment. The lows of football and the highs of football, going from getting cut, crying, saying what could I have done differently, to crying because you have an entire locker room of people chanting your name. So just wanted to show that to anyone who had watched Hard Knocks, who get to show like, hey, just because these guys get cut, it's not the end of their season. With that, we can move on to the rest of HBO Max, the stuff that actually came out this weekend.
Yeah, it warms your heart a little bit, seeing those success stories, especially when it's like the show ended with him at a low point,
Yeah.
and now you get to see that come around.
All right, so we have a little bit of news from HBO Max. White Lotus sweeps the event series category, and also Euphoria wins lead actress and several Tech Awards. So shout out Zendaya for winning an Emmy.
Yeah, I have not seen White Lotus yet, but it's on my radar now. Weird that it won the event series while its second season was like airing, which is like a weird contradiction. But yeah, Euphoria season two had its problems, but I think Zendaya was a great part of it, and the show always looks incredible. Man, they shoot that on film, and the lighting and the color in that is just gorgeous, and it makes me want to watch the show over and over again just to just like see how it looks.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend are very big fans of Euphoria. Really good show. It's like, what if we made a high school drama show like Degrassi or Secret Life of the American Teenager or any of those shows, but actually made it a great, compelling drama. So, if
Easily one of the better shows on TV.
definitely, definitely, if you haven't seen Euphoria, check it out. It's very, very dark show. I'll say that. With that brings us to our big episode review. Basically, from now on, instead of keying on a lot of different things, trying to give full-on reviews for a bunch of different shows like She-Hulk and Lord of the Rings and all these things, we're just gonna pick one show this week. It's House of the Dragon. It's the biggest show, best show on television. Next week, I think, because it's a 3-episode premiere of Andor. Andor will probably be our big review show, but this week we're focusing on House of the Dragon. My opinion, best show on TV. I think if I had to compare season one, the first 5 episodes of season one of Game of Thrones versus the first 5 episodes of House of the Dragon season one, I think House of the Dragon wins hands down. Tristan and I talked about it. I think Game of Thrones had to do a little bit more heavy lifting, a lot more houses, and a lot more just introducing you to the world that Game of Thrones or that House of Dragon didn't necessarily have to do that Game of Thrones does. So I think it gives House of the Dragon a little bit of an advantage. But the characters are compelling. It's introducing all these sides. I don't even know what side I'm fully on. I know I've been saying I'm black, but it's gonna be hard not to be green because if that's who's leading that group of people, just the ruthlessness, her story arc, her storyline. Basically, what we saw is the queen was essentially told like, "Hey, I know she used to be your best friend, and I know you care about her, but if she's the named heir, and if the king dies, and a lot of people are going to be against her. A lot of people aren't going to want her to be queen, and to stake her place as queen and confirm the fact that I am the queen of Westeros, she's going to have to kill your kids." And I think that is what flipped the switch, and that's what made Miss Hightower there kind of realize that she is going to be going to war whether she likes it or not. And
Yeah, this was definitely like a reality check episode. You know, we've been building up tension for the first like 4 episodes, and now we've gotten to this point. Like every main character is now in this room together, and we're at this big royal feast, and you can tell that the tensions are boiling over. I love the music and the editing in that sequence. It's just so well done. Like it took them like days to film that whole dance sequence, and they edited it together so smoothly that it just feels like it's this continuous like one scene. And I love just the political intrigue of this whole episode. Man, you can just feel the betrayals and the tiny little whispering that's going on. And yeah, Alicent definitely is the one that I think has the biggest wake up call in this episode of realizing like what her role actually is going to have to be if she wants to not only hold on to power but hold on to probably her life. Because Rhaenyra is not going to want to stop at the kids. Like if there's really a claim for the throne and there's a big war for the throne, like her head's going to be the one on the next spike. And I think she's finally realizing that. And yeah, she declared herself for House Hightower in her big, glowing, flowing green dress. Looks incredible.
yeah,
And yeah, the greens and the blacks are officially on, Joe.
it's like the line the one guy said. He said, "What's the color that raises in the lighthouse when they want to call their bannermen to war?" And the guy said green. And you're looking at her in this bright green dress, and I think she was kind of sending a message like, "Hey, stuff's gonna be popping off soon." And I think it's one of those things that people in Westeros, in King's Landing, kind of in all the lords were kind of talking under their breaths of like, so I think stuff's about to pop off soon because the king's dying, actively dying, and a lot of people have at stake. The person who basically has the best claim for the throne is the person that a lot of people don't want to have the throne, and the people that we may more want, like Aegon Targaryen, is 2 years old, and so there could be a war brewing. And we saw just a lot of great little intrigue, a lot of characters that I liked in Game of Thrones, like Varys and Littlefinger. There was this guy Clubfoot. He's basically pulling that role. I love George R. R. Martin being like, I need a guy that's kind of like Varys, but kind of like Littlefinger. What if I combine their names together of Laris, and that's how I'm fully convinced that's how he named this guy.
Yeah, the George Lucas logic of naming.
Yeah.
I really liked. Yeah, you can tell people are really starting to pick their sides, though. Like Laris is in the Godswood, like planting little seeds of doubt in Alicent, and that's what kind of leads to this whole investigation of her realizing, like, oh, Renaria is not really honest with me, and maybe I do have to try to play for my own self here. I like that a lot, and yeah, you meet the. I think this is the first time meeting the aged up Corliss's daughter, aged up now.
Yeah.
She was a young girl in the second episode. I think early on, she was the one who was proposed to the king to be like her, to be his new wife, and he turned her down because she was too young, and it made him kind of uncomfortable. And yeah, now she's back, and she's a older woman now, and she's seems to be hooking up with Damon a little bit, making eyes for the King of the Narrow Sea there.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, you know a little bit more because you read Blood of the Dragon and you know more. But what's Damon's whole play? Does he even care about his niece, or is he just think maybe if I marry my niece, then we'll be unstoppable because it'll be hard for anyone to have especially if we have a child, for anyone to have a claim stronger than ours. And he's probably thinking, well, if I marry her, people will be more okay with her being queen. I think because she's married to another Targaryen who has a strong claim, and then their kids will be strong Targaryens, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, my reading on this episode, but based on just what's in the context of this one episode, is that Damon might possibly be harboring some like homosexual desires a little bit. He's had the way he talked to his wife. She says she's never consummated a marriage, and she even said, "I know you couldn't be able to finish." I feel like that was a jab at him personally. And when he hooked up with Nira last week, he wasn't able to, finish the deed there either. It seems like he's having, whether it's some like erectile dysfunction, some inefficiency there, or maybe it's because similar to Rhaenyra's current now the husband, he also had this kind of some hidden. He was secretly gay with his guard and not wanting to let that out. And I wonder if they're trying to parallel Damon with him a little bit. And we're going to find out at some point in this series that Damon is gay, and he's maybe using his sexuality with these women as a way to either hide that or purely for the power of it. Like maybe when he has sex with men, it's something that he connects to actually sexually and emotionally. But when he has sex with women, it's all about the power and the political intrigue. But I think it's very telling that he didn't consummate his marriage, and that he wasn't able to get it up for his niece. What a weirdo.
Daemon Targaryen, a real weirdo. But with that, we kind of also say goodbye to some of our actresses. Millie Alcock, done with the show. She's being replaced because we're doing another time jump. And also, who played Alicent Hightower, Emily Carey, gone too. Replaced by Olivia Cook, which to me is an odd decision because I was looking through IMDb the other day and I saw Olivia Cook cast as Alicent Hightower, and I'm like, oh, that's a mistake because I feel like her and Emily Carey are the same age, so it kind of feels weird to me that we're doing a time jump to show that she's aged up by having an actress who I feel like is 2 years older, but I'm not in charge of this.
Yeah, Emily Carey did a great job. I think both of those actresses did a fantastic job, and I know that they cast the older people first and then cast the younger people based on the older cast. So Emily Carey was picked because they thought that she would look like a younger Olivia Cook. I don't know how well that was done.
Yeah,
but
I don't know about that. What's Olivia Cook?
I like Olivia Cook though.
Yeah, that like Millie Alcock and then the person that's playing the older Rhaenyra like fit. Like they look like sisters or something. Like I buy that. But Olivia Cook and Emily Carey are just not. They do not look like older versions of each other.
Yeah, I'm seeing that Emily Cook is 28 years old. So that
Emily
is not
Carey is 19. So there is a 9-year age difference, but also between 19 and 28, I feel like you really don't look that different.
And we do know from the next week on that I think they skipped forward like a decade or something like that. Well, it's only able to guess from the dialogue on the preview, but they do say like, oh, it's been a decade and we've left that realm unguarded or something like that. So I'm wondering if they're going to do a real big time jump. Like 10 years, that's a pretty long jump though. I don't know if they'll do a decade jump.
Yeah. Either way, the show's been great so far. I'm loving it. If you were a Game of Thrones fan and you were apprehensive to watch it because Game of Thrones left a sour taste in your mouth, I would say check it out. If you've been watching our reviews and you haven't checked it out yet, then I feel like you're just not a fantasy Game of Thrones person. But even if you're a fan of
Yeah,
political shows, I feel like this outside of like the rare dragon appearance, this is much more of a political show in my opinion than the fantasy show.
yeah, and I'll say I was very much hurt by the ending of Game of Thrones. You know, I felt like I had to go into recovery for a year after that because I was like, God, what am I doing with my life? But even with all that negativity in my brain, I was still able to come back to the show and very quickly get into it. So yeah, if you're still upset about the way Game of Thrones ended, this is way better than the Game of Thrones was towards the end. And I know Joe argued that when you go episode to episode, he thinks it's better than even Game of Thrones was at the beginning. So yeah, if you're on the fence, I think you should definitely give this a chance. Give it a shot. Watch the first 5 episodes and see what you like. Because I feel like this is a nice complete arc here. You know, you get like the beginning and the middle and the end here of the beginning of the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Can't wait to see
Oh,
what's next, Joe.
yep.
How are you feeling? Are you still? Have you switched sides yet? I know you mentioned earlier that you're still on Team Black. So you're voting for Targaryen still?
That entrance, it's gonna be hard to beat. I'm not fully Team Green, but I think I'm leaning Team Green.
Yeah, I'm curious how it'll go for you as this thing gets more and more bloody. You know, you have your Sir Kristen Joel as your name on your stream here. He seems to have picked
He
a
had a
side
rough day.
in this war here. He had a wrong day, yeah. You know, he had a lot going on, but yeah, I can't wait to see it. And yeah, the lines are being drawn. I can't wait to see where everybody ends up.
Are you green or are you black?
Look, I was thinking green because I do like Alicent, and I think that from the beginning, like when you look at the story as it is right now, she has every right to think that she should have the throne. Like she married the king, she had the kids, she did all the stuff she's supposed to do, and now the king just gets to like decide, change his mind, and put whoever he wants on the throne. And I empathize with Alicent way more in the show than I did in the reading of it. But yeah, I'm leaning a bit towards the greens here because I think Alicent's her anger is justified at this point.
Yeah, but she also married the queen knowing he already had an heir, so she should have at least been a
That is
little bit
true.
more prepared. That maybe it won't go her way. But with that, I
Yeah, I
think
don't
that
think her
yeah.
father prepped her well enough for what she was getting herself into, you know, because he has that thing with her. He's like, oh, he's going to kill your kids, he's going to kill this and this. And it's like, you're the one who got her in the situation. You could have told her that beforehand. But yeah, I can't wait to see where that plays out with the father and Hightower and the whole conspiracy there. So I can't wait. Yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the show.
All right, and I think that brings us to the end of our HBO Max discussion. We start to wrap up the show here. First, I don't know if Tristan found a leaving streaming soon, but I know I saw. Thank you for, or sorry to bother you. It took me a minute to remember the title. Sorry to bother you, starring Lakeith Stanfield. It's one of those movies that you shouldn't look up anything. It's weird. It's crazy. If you like Lakeith Stanfield from his various projects, definitely check out Sorry to Bother You. It's leaving Netflix and Hulu at the end of the month.
I love Sorry to Bother You. Yeah, I had a great time with this. I watched it in the theater like opening weekend, I think, and I had no idea what it was really about. And yeah, as it goes along, you're like, wow, I didn't know I was watching that kind of movie. And then you'll say that probably like 3 or 4 times as you're going. A lot of good surprises and just like really unexpected twists.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have a leaving soon?
I forgot to get a Leaving Soon. Unfortunately, I was a bit distracted
All right.
uh,
Well,
this week. But
yeah, just
if you
check
got
out
anything
Sorry
to
to.
throw out there,
No, that's all I had. Just check out Sorry to Bother You, which brings us to our one of our next steps on to wrap up this show, and we have. Let's do. What do you want to do first? Our MVP or our winner of the week?
let's go to MVP first.
All right, let's go with our MVP. I have a graphic now, just to flash up there to say we're doing our MVP.
I like it.
MVP. I saw who you put in the document. Who I put. I think it's you could go either way for me. I feel like you could either go Alison Hightower or Emily Carey. I think her walking in with that dress is like the big like trailer moment of this show, in my opinion. Like, if you were to do a season one recap, that moment has to be in there. I thought her performance, everything led this episode of House of the Dragon. She came out of nowhere. She was just a character to me who this whole time has just been in the show. And now it almost feels like that was her being like, I'm the lead of this show now. Whether that holds up, whether that's true, whether it is, it's House of the Dragon. She's still technically kind of a high tower, not a Targaryen. But I felt like that moment was iconic enough that I'm saying she is our MVP. Now, what is your pick? And maybe we can hash it out, figure it out, and come up with one solitary MVP.
Yeah, for me, I went to the real world here, and I went to the Emmys, and I went with Quinta Brunson. Not only because, of course, she won for Abbott Elementary, she was nominated twice as well for Abbott Elementary for the writing for that show, and also for the actress, because she's the actress and she's also like the writer and producer of the show. It's kind of like her little baby, you know. So I think the fact that went on to win so much, and it kind of was like a cult hit of the year. Kind of, I heard so many people talking about it, and it really was like a word of mouth success. So I wanted to give her the win for that. And she also had this rather infamous moment where Jimmy Fallon and
Kimmel.
Jimmy.
Kimmel.
I thought it was Fallon that Fallon laid down there.
No,
It was Kimmel.
it's Kimmel, yeah.
One of the Jimmys, you know, he had a stunt he thought was very funny, which was not exactly funny, and he laid down right in front of the microphone and laid there throughout the entirety of her speech, and she had to walk up on stage and like literally step over him and give a speech, and it became this really kind of awkward viral moment. People were like, "What is this guy doing? He's really distracting from this woman and her very successful win," and like it was kind of a very much talked about moment. So I gave her my MVP because not only is it an accomplishment to win for your personal creation, but I also thought it was easily the most viral moment of the entire Emmy ceremony was that odd choice of a joke, and then her going on to the talk show afterwards and kind of making good with it.
Yeah. So how we want to run this? Do we want to do this like we have a Tristan MVP or a Joe MVP, or do we want to have the Hand Plus MVP of the week? I don't think we ever figured that out.
I was thinking we got to figure out our one MVP. You know, are we going with Emily Carey?
Because my argument, I think, against Quinta Brunson, I agree everything 100% with what you said. My thing is I feel like Abbott Elementary is an ABC show that also just gets thrown up on Hulu. If Abbott Elementary, I think, was a Hulu original, Disney Plus original, whatever, any streaming, Paramount Plus original, whatever it is, I think I would flip my vote. My problem was, with us being a streaming show, I feel like Abbott Elementary is just a ABC show that gets thrown up on Hulu.
That is a good point. And as you're talking about Emily Carey, my thought for her is that this likely is her last appearance on the show, unless she's in a couple of scenes here and there in the feature episodes. But I feel like it could be our last chance to give her some award love here, and she's done a great job so far. You know, Allison could have easily just been like a supporting character or just like a villain, a one-note character, and I think Emily Carey brought a lot to that role. You know, she looks great in the character, she looks great in the dress, and she has a really expressive little face. You know, like you can see when she's having that conversation, there's like little tiny movements in her face show so much of that character. You know, and I'm really been so impressed by her because I haven't seen her in anything before this. So yeah, she was a big surprise for me.
Yeah, we're like the Golden Globes. We'll give it to you for your first season or your last season, your debut or your farewell. But with that, our MVP of the episode is Emily Carey. And with that, we move on to our winner of the week, where we determine what streaming service won the week. And to me, this may be a determination of who just lost the least. For me, Amazon Prime. We can rule out all the ones we didn't talk about, right? Paramount Plus, Peacock, Apple TV. I think we can rule out Amazon Prime. I only talked about, like, I just said, hey, they got Thursday Night Football. But maybe, honestly, Thursday... Okay, number one, I'm ruling out Disney Plus. They had Dancing with the Stars Live, whatever. They had Rembembering, which is a loss for me. Even if they came out with something great, I feel like they still would have lost it for me. Netflix, just, it was fine. Nothing amazing. I think we're between... Am I wrong in saying, hey, you're debuting kind of the first ever live sport on a streaming service, showing the future of... I mean, ESPN Plus, I guess, has done that before, but it's ESPN Plus. You're a sports streaming service, so that's kind of makes sense for your platform. But as far as Amazon Prime, you're like showing what the future of streaming can be. and I'm sure probably within 5 years' time, all of these other streaming services will be streaming sports on their service, or do we go for HBO Max for just having another great House of the Dragon episode?
Well, I do think it's a big move that Amazon has football, and that was something that people said was impossible for a very long time to get live sports on streaming. But I also don't want to narrow down HBO to being just another good House of the Dragon episode because they did really good at the Emmys, and a lot of those shows are streaming shows. Euphoria, White Lotus are both streaming shows, and both went pretty big. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm leaning towards HBO Max. 'Cause not only do they have a good drop at House of the Dragon, they had a really, really good week at the Emmys.
I will. Now, unlike our MVP, our winner of the week, we kind of have a Joe's winner of the week and Tristan's winner of the week, mainly because it's hard for us to watch all the same stuff. And Tristan brought up some great points. They did clean up at the Emmys. And Thursday Night Football, congrats to Amazon Prime, but I'm also giving my vote to winner of the week to HBO Max, who's been crushing it lately. I don't know about Tristan, but I think when Andor starts coming out, it's going to be hard for me not to give Disney Plus some love. Can't wait to see some of these other streaming services get in here and clean up some votes for winner of the week.
Yeah, once they start dropping some of their good stuff, it's going to be a lot more competition. But a few of them are on a bit of a dry spell right now. But yeah, I mean, they all have some big stuff coming up. So for now, I'm giving it to HBO Max.
All right, so HBO Max wins winner of the week, and I think at the end of the month we can do a wrap up, kind of when we do our coming to streaming in October. We can kind of do like, hey, here's who won the winner of the week. Here's all your MVPs. Kind of have a discussion on that. And Tristan, anything you want to talk about before we end the show here today?
I know we're going to be doing a Morbius watch along this week. We mentioned it last week, and the two of us just forgot that we were supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to do it again this week.
Yeah, I think we're going to shoot for Saturday afternoon. If you're looking for any specifics, look at the Movie Change Up Twitter. I know I said it last week, but I'm going to be focused more on tweeting from there, posting on there, doing maybe some live reactions to shows or movies I'm watching. Tristan also has the password for that account, so he can do that too. And
Call me out.
yeah, and with that, I think that wraps up our show. And without further ado, goodbye. Hey, thank you for watching the Movie Change Up podcast. We'd really appreciate if you liked, commented, subscribed, and shared us with anyone you think might be into what we're doing over here. Thank you. Have a nice day.